My name is Vina, aka Miss WOC Reader, and welcome back to my channel. Forgive me if I sound a little bit nasal. I just got back from vacation like 2 days ago, and the last day the dogs were like running free and it had rained, so it was like wet dog everywhere, and it kind of activated my allergies, and so my sinuses have been giving me trouble. I feel a lot better today than I did yesterday, but I still have a little way to go before I'm clear, because I can kind of hear my ears popping a little bit and stuff. And you'll probably hear like the fan running because we are now in a really hot time where I cannot film without it. I wanted to get to the books that I had read after I did my mid-month wrap up in May. My reading didn't go like planned in May, but I still wanted to sit down and talk about these books. I feel like a lot of the books that I read towards the end of May were just kind of I wasn't really writing reviews like I normally would, because I'm just like, I don't have too much to say. But I still wanted to share these books since I did put in the time to read them. And I know some of them I had featured in previous videos and people were kind of curious. So let's get into it. I have What the Garden Tells Me. This one is by Monica Mackay. This is a picture book, of course. I was sent this by Penguin Random House, so shout out to them for sending this my way. This is just a good one for, you know, spring/summer. It has beautiful illustrations. It talks about gardening within the city. This one was set in Chicago, which I was lucky enough in May to finally visit Chicago. That was pretty cool. It was my first time there, and Chicago is known for its city gardens and its parks and like greenery. So it was kind of cool to get back from Chicago and then read this one that was set there. And it's just a cute story, like about a girl who goes to a city garden and she's just listening to the sounds of the garden, exploring the flowers and the different plants, and having a fun time. There's a lot of conversation now about urban gardening, and it's getting more popular, which is great because so many places in the city are food deserts. So it's great to see the community getting more involved, and it's good to start educating children now, but do it in a way where they're just liking the plants. The next one I have is Peaches. This one is by Gabrielle Davis and Kim Holt. I love this one. I thought this was really good. So I've been reading a lot of picture books like recently, especially like with the kids, and one thing I've noticed is sometimes the context will be more in the author's note than words on the page. Like, you'll get pretty illustrations, but the words on the page aren't conveying enough. And when you read the author's note, everything is in there. And I hate that because as a grown adult, I know what's going on, but the children do not. And then like we read the books and they get kind of confused and they have all these questions and it doesn't really hit for them. So I really appreciated that Peaches had everything on the page in a way that the kids can understand and enjoy. So in this one, we're following a little girl who is growing up with her family. They have their own peach orchard. I never had my own orchard, but we did have a peach tree growing up in the backyard. So I felt that sense of familiarity of going outside and picking the peaches and making peach cobbler. And in this case, like this little girl, she lost her mother, so this is a way to bring her closer to her mother and as well as her grandmother. This is an activity they enjoy together, and it was cute just to see the importance of tradition being passed down and the way that it can keep your family together. And of course there's like a recipe for peach cobbler in here, which is really cool. I have not made peach cobbler in a while just because the peach tree doesn't bear as much fruit as it used to, but I might go to the orchard again this year and just buy peaches, because it's always great having them fresh. That's one of the things I really enjoy about the summer. So I can't wait to sit down and read this one with the kids, and fingers crossed we'll get to take them to the orchard this summer. But overall, very well done story. I like how she talked about the mother. I liked just the sharing of family tradition. Illustrations, definitely pretty. So of the many picture books I've read this year, this is definitely one I would highly recommend. So I have Ex Marginalia, and this was a short story collection. I was reading it for like the past 2 months, so I was able to finally finish it in May, and it was different from what I thought it was going to be. So it is 20 authors from marginalized backgrounds who write in the speculative fiction space. It's not like a craft book per se where they're telling you like tips and tricks. It's more them talking from their own experience of, this is my journey, this is how I started, this is how I kind of navigated through the industry, this is what I had to learn on my writing journey. So some of these books definitely, some of these stories definitely stood out to me more than others. The first few I was just kind of like, eh. It wasn't until I hit Carlos Hernandez's where I actually paid attention. I could kind of relate to like his background growing up in the very Catholic church and the little bit of magic you see within there and just family tradition. So the standouts for me in this one were Carlos Hernandez, M.L. Krishnan, Malka Older, P. Jelly Clark, Suyi Davies Akamboa, and S.B. Divya. So there were some good essays in here. It is available on Hoopla. So at the time I bought this, I did not see it on Hoopla, and I had been waiting forever to get it from the library. But it is available on Hoopla now, so if it's something you're interested in, if you are a writer in the speculative fiction space, I do recommend giving it a read. It was just interesting to hear the different journeys and like things that stood out to me, like when Suyi Davies was talking about exposition tax and how as an author from a marginalized community you're expected to explain so much, but then when you read white speculative fiction or like fantasy or whatever, they don't explain a whole lot. Like you're just expected to know what they're talking about, and how you get complaints sometimes when you don't over explain, but then when you do over explain you get complaints from the people who you're writing about. So you kind of have to find the right balance and decide how much you are going to explain and how much you're just going to leave people to research and look up themselves. I also have The Supernatural Files of C.J. Delaney. This is a middle grade that I was actually very excited to read, and then it took me way too long to read it. And the problem was, like, it started out very good. So we're following this girl, and she is a little girl living in a small town. She wants to be a reporter very bad and follow in her grandmother's footsteps as a reporter. And the thing was that her voice just sounded a little bit older than I expected for middle grade. Like she had kind of like a determination that I felt was like almost college student-like determination with this career she wanted to pursue as a reporter. So I didn't really get like the childish voice for her. And the pacing was very slow. So we're in a small town. Weird things start happening that she's trying to report on. Like a dog goes missing. We're just seeing like weird footsteps and stuff. So it was it had all the makings of a very cool paranormal series. But I feel like the book just took too long to like get to the point. Like we just dragged and it just kind of killed the momentum, and then like at 40% it picked up a little bit, and then it was going good, and then it kind of fell off again. So it would be a fun paranormal story if like we actually just stayed in that fun space, and I don't feel like that book really did that. Then I had like my library books. I borrowed a few from the library and I did like audiobook and ebook and stuff. So I had Symphony of Secrets by Brendan Slocum. And I decided to read this because Shay from Shay with the Hobbies kept telling me, oh, it's so good, you need to read it. It was decent. Like, I ended up giving this one a 3. The thing with Symphony of Secrets is it does that thing that a lot of like these literary type stories do. That where it has like dual timelines, so you're following people in the present trying to like uncover a mystery, but then the whole mystery is playing out like in the past, so you kind of know what's going on and you're like waiting for them to catch up to what's actually happening. And in this case, they're following this famous white classical musician, and they find out that it's actually a black woman who is behind his work, and they just need to be able to prove it and expose the foundation that is dedicated to him and kind of get some compensation for her descendants. So it was very interesting just like hearing about black classical music, because you don't see too many stories in that space, but it's a very predictable book, so I can't like rate it highly because it didn't like keep me on the edge of my seats. It was just like a nice calm like listen. So from Libro FM I had The Emperor and the Endless Palace, which was another one I had been reading for a while, and I knew this one wasn't really for me, but I still continued with it because I did have the audiobook. And so I will still say this one isn't really for me, so I wasn't really sure what to rate it just because I knew it wasn't for me, but I know people that it's for, and I think for like a lot of my gay friends are going to love the rep in this. Because there's kind of like hookup culture in a major city. It's a very weird environment, so I feel like a lot of people can relate to it. But this one was marketed as a romantasy, and it is not a romantasy. So with the Emperor and the Endless Palace, like it's multiple timeline. There's reincarnation. We're following these lovers who are very, very toxic. So I don't know why this was marketed as romantasy. There's nothing romantic about it. I wouldn't say the ending is happy. And in fact, I was like, oh, we're gonna just end on that note. Um, there was a lot of very creative euphemisms for sex, like some that just made me burst out laughing. Like they kept calling like his penis in his influence, and there was a lot of different visuals for fluids and stuff. So some of them like definitely had me going ew. I didn't so much love like the past story because it was like inspired by Chinese folklore. So we're kind of taking an existing story and just like expanding on it a little bit more. I would consider this like an erotic fantasy book, and I like the present day timeline more, where they're like in like the very drug heavy, hookup heavy party environment. I thought that was pretty interesting. I said I would not consider this a romance. I don't feel like the romantic relationship was developed real well, and again, these people were very toxic. Overall, though, it was interesting. It was an interesting read. Also, like, it was Harlequin, and this is just not something that I expect from Harlequin, but I know they're doing like a rebrand, and so then that makes me wonder then what some of their future books are going to look like, because I feel like they're still very much like certain things you can say in Harlequin, and this one kind of like I did not expect rimming in a Harlequin book. So like I'm wondering now, so are the women like going to be able to just like get like a little more raunchy in their books too? Things that make me wonder. And I reread The Billionaire's Legacy by Reese Ryan. I've read this before. I really enjoyed this one. It's like in her Bourbon Brothers series. So basically you have this our female MC, and she comes back to her hometown for a wedding from like her best friend's family. Her best friend's little brother meets her at the wedding. They end up hooking up. She gets pregnant. They meet up like 6 months or something later, where she's pregnant with the twins, and she hasn't told him yet. So he's like, oh my gosh, like you're keeping my children from me. And then he kind of immediately moves her in, and they start to form a relationship. I thought this one was really good. There's no third act breakup in it, and I needed something just like to cleanse my palate that felt familiar and that I could just like read and enjoy. So like even the second time around, it was still very good. I read The Girl in the Lake by India Hill. So I had read another book by India Hill, which is a YA that was just okay. And so I was very excited to read her middle grade because I kept seeing this one. I wanted to read it. Finally, the hold came available at the library. And I found this one to be very good. I ended up rating it around a 4-star. It was a pretty good listen. So there's these cousins that come together for the summer, and our main character, Celeste, she had failed her swimming lessons, according to her. Like, she comes out not being able to know how to swim, and she's very worried about it because now they're spending the summer at the lake with her grandparents, and like from the time they get there, like the house is creaking, there's weird things going on. Then they find out that an aunt who she resembles exactly died from drowning in a lake. So we're kind of uncovering like the mystery as they try and have her go away because she's haunting them now. And it wasn't necessarily a horror per se, and I think if the children are expecting a horror, I would not pick this one up for them. It was just like more like a contemporary with some spooky elements, and it was definitely trying to push the importance of being a black person and learning how to swim, because we know a lot of black people, not only in this country, but I know also like in the UK and stuff, don't know how to swim, and that is because there are not a lot of pools in their neighborhoods. There's definitely efforts in the government to push them out. Like, even just the other day, my mom and I were having this discussion about how the city pool was not open for Memorial Day, and there's only one pool left in the city, and it's like on the very edges of the city. And that's purposeful because they kind of closed all the other ones around the city, and then there was like one on the burbs on the opposite end, but still like on the bus route, so it was easy for the kids to get to. And people said that one was being too noisy, and they got that one closed too. So basically, like, white people don't like to see black kids experiencing joy at the pool, so pools tend to close very quickly, or like they find ways to kind of push like black and Latinx children out of those spaces. So this book was really trying to just like at that point, like, no, we deserve to be able to swim and have a great time during the summer and enjoy the water. And I really appreciated that message because that is something like, the pool was just so, going to the pool was so common for me, and we had a pool membership at one point when I was a kid. Like, I didn't have to think about that stuff a lot until maybe like I was maybe like 11-ish. No, I was like 14, I think, when I went to visit cousins in New Jersey, and they were just like, oh, black people don't swim. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean black people don't swim? Like, I go swimming all the time. And that's when I started to learn more of the history around why black people don't swim, and lack of access to pools, and just like the ways in which we were forced out of these pools, including like people throwing acid in the pools and stuff. So I thought she did the history though in a good way here. So that was everything else that I read for the month of May. Let me know if any of these books sound interesting to you. If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!